Than a few. Good evening, everybody. In this very dark day, good to see everybody here, and thank you for practicing together. I wanted to talk tonight about gratitude, since we're in the season of Thanksgiving, and probably, hopefully, feeling gratitude for all we are and all we have. Gratitude shows us the way. Generosity and gratitude flow through the ground of our being. And so through practice, we tap it. It is called forth through the view that we develop as we learn how to settle the heart and the mind, and be able to rest in the simplicity and the directness of each aspect of our life as it unfolds. So let's roam together a bit through the territory of gratitude. I don't think we can emphasize this enough, especially since we've been going through a prolonged season of difficulties in a number of different ways. And when things are so difficult, it can be easy to emphasize the difficulties and forget about all of the blessings. So the first thing about gratitude is that we can't know that we're feeling gratitude unless we feel it in the body. So gratitude is definitely a body experience. I don't say, I think gratitude. I say, I feel gratitude. It is thoroughly through the body that this experience emerges. And it can't be particularly abstracted. I notice in my body first when I'm filled with gratitude. And that's another part of gratitude. This is the way we usually say it. I'm filled with gratitude. There's a sensation of being filled up with gratitude. The heart feels plump and cheerful, cheered, encouraged, accompanied. And there's also a sense of relief that can come with gratitude, depending on the circumstances. Relief, gratitude is so much the sense of having been touched by, not being alone, but being touched by other in some way, either circumstances or people or the natural world. So there's an aspect of gratitude that has to do with the experience of intimacy. It's not a formal feeling. It's a very intimate sensation. And a sense of joining. Temporarily, there can be no sense of other, but I am joined. I am helped. I'm supported. I'm sharing. So yesterday, some of you were there. We have on Saturday morning, we have our golden hour, which is 1 hour of meditation together. And toward the end, I looked up and I was just filled with gratitude as I looked into the faces of each of the people on Zoom with me. The gratitude just almost took me by surprise. It just rose up, right? For all of the practice going on there, and that I was not practicing alone. And because everybody was there with me, I could practice. And you can practice because of everyone who comes together to do this. Very weird and often difficult practice of being still and silent and present. So there's really a sensation of being filled up that happens with gratitude. I'm filled with gratitude. And maybe even as I'm saying it, you can feel it a little bit. Can you get in touch with that feeling? A little bit, a lot. Very often just the word itself summons the experience for me, because actually at any moment, there's something to be grateful for. Every moment entirely is to be met with gratitude. The practice of gratitude conditions us to live and breathe intimately in the world at large, our close-in world and the more distant world. Gratitude is really an emotion that is directly connected with our interdependence. We are always at one. We are always at one, even though we are particular and independent. We are the me in a great field of connected life. The perfection of our life, the completion of our life is always in union with all of life. So gratitude is a moment of feeling our wholeness. Maybe you've had the experience of walking through the woods and feeling gratitude and plain old love for the path. There are certain trees along the path that I very often walk that I love. They are good friends. I can rely on them to restore me to my wholeness, which is what friends do for each other, after all. And so many people, not only Buddhists, but all kinds of people, point to the place that they feel this wholeness and connection is in the woods, in the natural world, while hiking or chopping wood or working in the garden, looking at the sky. You just never know when some element of the environment will participate with you in the perfection of this moment. Suddenly come into this kind of intimate connection with something that with our ordinary mind we may feel very disconnected from. But at those times, there's this real sense that there isn't really any self and other, but moments of gratitude are the kind of the celebration of the one life in whatever form it's taking at that moment. So gratitude is an intrinsically spiritual state. Recently, and this moment I'm about to tell you about was what made me decide to talk about gratitude. I was walking along a really muddy path right after a heavy rain this week, and just as I came around a bend, there were all of the grasses and the marsh grasses, and a flock of finches rose up out of the grasses. They had been quiet, so I didn't even know they were there, and then they just rose up, and they flew in a shape. You know, they were so organized. It was a shape that flew and then landed like raindrops on some bushes that were just a little bit further away. It was just amazing. So I was really filled with the gratitude of being, the lightness of being, and the good fortune of being a simpleton enough to really enjoy and thank my life for letting me have a moment like this. All of life, a tumble of gratitude. But for something like this to happen, the mind has to be able to be quiet. And so we can be grateful for our practice, which encourages us to learn how to, when we're very, very busy, how to tolerate stopping. Because sometimes at the beginning of a period of meditation, I don't know about you, but I have to tolerate stopping until I relax enough in my fibers to open. And then it's lovely. Sometimes. Sometimes it never really stops. The mind just keeps going. There keeps being resistance. And it's a meditation period that's filled with resistance. So that too. So gratitude is an emotion that springs from an exchange of blessings. Really, it's really, there's this active exchange, energetic exchange of blessing. And a friend recently summed this up so beautifully. They said they were looking at the relationship between generosity and gratitude, which swing together. They always swing together. And generosity is selflessness in giving. You know, when you give, there's no, there's, unless you have a motive, you know, I'll give you something and then you'll like me, or I'll give you something and then you'll owe me, or whatever, you know, there's an agenda there. But the purity of giving, of generosity, dana, is selfless. So generosity is selflessness in giving, and gratitude is selflessness in receiving. And I just loved that. And it never occurred to me. It's true. It's another quality to gratitude, because we are free of self, of separate self, in that state of gratitude. So gratitude is an active practice. It's not just a passive kind of dull sucking on the tit. It's really actively receiving, actively being gladdened by a blessing that we receive. And at the moment of any exchange, we simultaneously embody the cycle of giver, receiver, and gift. It's that constant cycle. We're always in the cycle of giver, receiver, and gift. Everything moving together. It's going on right now. One of the things that Japanese monasteries, you know, where there's a bamboo fountain or a creek, and they put a little scooper, a bamboo scoop there, and you can take a drink or wash your hands, but at the end, you pour whatever remains of the scoop back as a way of really recognizing the continuity of giver, receiver, and gift. It doesn't stop. So all of this, it happens at the intersection of the relative and the absolute. The relative and the absolute. And from a relative perspective, I give to you. You give to me. There's the distinction between us. And we're all really different. I mean, just look at the screen. We are just a motley crew here, different in every particular. But in an absolute sense, not at all. Not even separate. So in the ordinary relative world, we come from an isolated entity center, which we call the ego, me and mine. this isolated identity center. I love that phrase, isolated identity center. That's David Hinton. In David Hinton's book, he talks about the ego as the isolated identity center, which really is the way it feels when we get caught. There's an isolation that comes when we're very concerned about ourselves. We're inside and everybody else in the world is outside. But from an absolute perspective, there isn't separation between your life and mine. This one life arises every moment as an undifferentiated whole that we're all part and parcel of. All of our actions of giving and receiving are the vital activity of the functioning of the one life. And it just goes on and on. And when we experience this clearly, it's really something to be grateful for. It's always going on. This perpetual exchange. No matter what the conditions are, the momentary conditions, the continual flow of life is richly sustained. And our response to it depends on our clarity and whether we're awake to this as continual interdependent exchange. We're always giving and we're always receiving. And we can be really grateful to be awake and aware in the midst of this continual exchange that is our life. And this is why this practice is so precious. This practice of awakening every moment, it's just being present, appreciating your life. Appreciate your life. That's my Dharma grandfather, Maizumi Roshi, wrote a book titled Appreciate Your Life. And it's really, so we can say, well, yeah, what about when everything really goes wrong? I mean, right now, there's a lot of trouble in the world and there is a lot of suffering. Even more reason to appreciate our life and appreciate our profound privilege. So gratitude is an emotion that springs from an exchange of blessings, not only with humans, but with anything in the natural world. Trees and grasses and birds, fish, clouds, rocks. Anything can wake us up. You can be walking along a path and deep in thought, and suddenly you stub your toe on a rock and down you go, and you wake up to how completely somewhere else you were, right? It's not always a big mystical experience. Sometimes we trip and fall and go, ouch. So in our civilization, we're suffering deeply from a lack of gratitude for the generosity of the natural world. We're asleep and careless and wanton in the way we take and take and take and take, and have forgotten the rest of the cycle of giver, receiver, and gift in how we behave as a civilization and as an economy. And this breeds profound collective suffering when we specialize in just one part of that cycle. Without gratitude and acting from gratitude, we bring the energetic balance that rules all of life into a wobble. And we sure are seeing that now. We're in a profound wobble. So there's another part of the way to view gratitude, having to do with what we call the emanation body of Buddha, the Nirmanakaya. The emanation body is the form of Buddha that appears in the world to teach people the path of liberation. So we can be very formal in how we use this term, but I rather think of it more in a more integrative way. We're all emanation bodies. Right now, we're looking at a screen, a Zoom screen of emanation bodies. We all help each other wake up. We're all on the path of awakening. Buddha appeared in the world to teach people the path of liberation. We are all learning and teaching, receiving and giving the gift of awakening. Every material thing and every immaterial thing is an emanation of life. All of the different manifestations appearing in the world can help us. Anything and everything, all dharmas, all phenomena can help us awaken to the exchange. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Saints and politicians. Nirmanakaya refers to the emanation bodies of Buddha. And the particular embodiment and form that life takes in me or in you, potentially, that wakes to acts of generosity and elicits deep gratitude. You know, one of the things that I've noticed is periodically somebody has been very, very kind to me, or circumstances have been noticeably kind when they could have been not kind. And that awakens the heart, refreshes the spirit, and brings forth deep gratitude. So we can practice this very actively in our lives. Maybe tomorrow, all of us can really appreciate the people who cross our path at a safe distance, our pets, the garden that you tend, the items in your house that provide you with a place to sit or lie down, surfaces on which you eat, and implements that bring food to mouth, and the food itself. All of this is the result of massive continual exchanges of effort and making and receiving. So everything that comes along can elicit gratitude when we're awake to it and we're paying attention and we're actively receiving. A lovely image that Zen Master Zhuido offered for this. He says, the dragon's jewels are found in every wave. Looking for the moon, it is here, in this wave, in the next. Everything in this moment and the next can be appreciated and received with gratitude. So this view is pointing out the world as a jewel. You are a facet of the jewel. I am a facet of the jewel. We're not apart from the jewel. Zoom is a facet of the jewel. The computer. And gratitude is the experiential language of the awakened jewel. So one more thing that I want to mention in relation to this before we're done is parental mind. It's another way of saying the mind of gratitude and offering. Parental mind is something that Uchiyama Roshi beautifully lays out in his commentary on Dogen's instructions to the cook. So what is parental mind? There are a number of you out there on the screen, I know, are parents. And if you're not, you have pets and you have friends and others who you care for. And a wise parent with a well-formed parental mind sees the jewel as their children, sees their children as the jewel, and strives to recognize the individual gifts that they have and nurture them as they come forward in the world. And if you have more than one child, they're so different. Parental mind watches over the world, appreciating that the health and the development that it goes on all around us is our child. We are responsible. And this is the same attitude of presence and awareness that we bring, not just to our own children. I think it's unfortunate when we have children and we don't recognize that all children are our children. You know, all children are our children. Every person is our child. Every person wants to be happy. Every child is my child. All sentient beings feel pain and fear. I noticed something, you know, I have kind of a fixed idea about newts, thinking that they're not very sentient because I know that they don't have much electrical current going through them. But the other day I came across a newt and it came across me and it just stopped. I mean, it was making its way at kind of a clip along, its little plump body going along. And as soon as we got within a few feet of each other, it stopped. And it just waited. And then I realized, well, maybe I'm holding it up. So I walked past it. And when I was about 4 feet past it, it resumed its journey. And I thought, there's sentiency walking in the body of a newt. So part of parental mind is also looking at the consequences of actions and for the prudent course, near and far. And that's something that we all have concern about in our world now with public policy, the immediate and the long-term results of anything that gets enacted. And also, parents regard the difficulties that the child encounters as opportunities for growth. And we do too. Everything in this practice, in the mind of practice, is an opportunity to understand the nature of our life. We can carry parental mind through the days of our lives when we practice gratitude, looking out for all of life. And so we're living through an extreme example of something to be grateful for that doesn't look so good at face value. To be grateful for difficulties with the don't know mind, what can be appreciated even in the worst of times. And I think that this is a really significant practice that's being called for now. Clearly, so that we don't become soured, disaffected, and withdrawn. One way, the COVID pandemic, in one way, it's really a terrible thing. But it is also the truth of the moment. It's actual. And perhaps it's only such a terrible truth. It's only through such a terrible truth that we can collectively wake up enough to the true condition of interdependence in this life, ecologically and socially, that we have to relate to now. We could really, America is so caught up in the individual and getting for ourselves. The truth of the shared life that's fundamental to all of life. Every system that provides for us is being challenged. So being grateful helps me, and maybe it helps you, be keenly aware of the value of tending very carefully to every dimension of our life, regarding everything as ourself. if we're going to survive. So how do we use what we're given, whatever it is? How does gratitude function in my life? How potent is my gratitude? This is a question that I carry now kind of as a koan. I'm really studying in my own experience the way that gratitude functions in my life. What in a cause and effect kind of way. There's so much to it. So I hope that we can all celebrate this Thanksgiving, whether we are by ourselves or with others, by practicing radical gratitude, offering random acts of kindness. Remember that phrase that was like on every bumper sticker, every bumper for a number of years, but we don't see it so much. But it's a great practice phrase. Random acts of kindness, and using our creativity and resources to lend a steady hand to everything and everybody that your life touches. And may we make discoveries as we do that. Discover even more the richness of our own lives and what we have to offer others. So I'm grateful for your attention. I hope that there's something in this talk that is useful. And I'll be quiet now.